Okay, good morning. Time to wake up, England. It's St. George's Day. Happy St. George's Day. What a better day than to remind the world of just who the English are, who you are. I'm Welsh. You don't need me to tell you. You know who you are. The English probably created the greatest empire the world has ever seen. It brought civilization to countless countries. Most of them threw that away, didn't they? But we taught them democracy. We brought them modern technology for the times, trains, health, you name it. The English or the British gave it to them. Whether they used it wisely, that's not our problem. Now, England has to look after themselves. Let's talk about St. George's. Those people who hate you, they really hate you, try to ridicule you over your patron saint, St. George. Yeah, they cry out, he wasn't even English. He was a Turk. Yeah, they miss the point. They are low IQ. They have IQs lower than sub-Saharans living in subterranean caves, and you can't get much lower than that. Yeah, they totally miss the point of why St. George was chosen to be the patron saint of England. Let's have a reminder. Who was St. George? I think he was born around the 3rd century. They reckon Cappadocia in what is now modern Turkey. We know he was a Roman soldier, and we know that he served under a Roman emperor named Diocletian. He was a Christian, yeah, one of the first Christians, really. Round about that time, Christians were being fed to the lions, crucified. Yeah, they really went through it, the early Christians. Many of them died for their faith. He wouldn't renounce his faith, St. George. And for that, he was executed. Yeah, he paid the ultimate price for his faith to his God. They believe that he was executed around about 303 AD, and that is when he became a martyr for the Christians. Yeah, so this St. George, known as St. George, he wasn't a king, he wasn't an Englishman, he was a man who stood by his beliefs. Yeah, in the early days of Christianity, he stood by his beliefs when it mattered most, and he paid for it with his life. Those low IQs turn around and talk about St. George and the dragon. Again, they miss the point. They don't understand the meaning of symbolism. Yeah. The dragon story probably came around about in medieval times, and in which St. George is supposed to have defeated a dragon that had been terrorizing a town and the neighborhood. Now, it wasn't a dragon George was defeating, although there might have been. The dragon represented the evil and tyranny and fear that was happening at that time in that area. And George represented the courage, faith, and resistance to evil, tyranny, and fear. Excuse me. So, really, it's a story about a man standing up for something bigger than himself, refusing to back down, fighting injustice. That's the story and the true meaning of St. George and the Dragon. So how did he become England's patron saint, your patron saint? Cross of St. George, yeah, next to the Welsh flag. Means a lot to me, the brotherhood between the English and the Welsh. I should get one really for Ulster and Scotland also. How did he become patron saint? I said. Well, he was adopted during the Crusades. The English knights wore the red cross on a white background, and that became the symbol of English identity, didn't it? One of the greatest flags, if not the greatest flag the world has ever seen. Yeah. Survived a lot, the English. Wars they started, wars they ended, never really defeated, might get knocked down for a while, but they always picked themselves up and won in the end. And this time England will win in the end. You won't beat the English, not when they're united with their Welsh brothers, their Scottish brothers, and their Ulster brothers, some of the loyalist people in the United Kingdom. We will not be beaten. England will not be beaten. Time to tell the world that, hey, the band is back together and we're going to go on tour soon. We're going to take our country back. England is going to take England back. Anyhow, I digress. We've got to talk about King Edward III, haven't we? 14th century. I'd like to talk more about the Crusades. Maybe we'll make that a subject for another video. Anyhow, in the 14th century, King Edward, Ted, he founded the Order of the Garter. And then that's when St. George was made the official patron of England. That's when St. George became England himself. Yeah. St. George is England. England is St. George. What can we learn from St. George? Courage in the face of pressure. Loyalty to belief. He stood by his Christian principles, his faith. Imagine the strength that must have took. He could have submitted the way modern politicians want England and the rest of their Great Britain to submit to the will of those who would destroy us. Not a chance. I think to the English, St. George, and to me, to me, I think St. George represents something simple, something easy to understand, but rare these days. A willingness to stand your ground, not out of anger, but out of conviction and your faith in your God. I think he reminds us perhaps that being English isn't about shouting the loudest. It's about knowing who you are, not being afraid to stand by it. So, come on England, wave the flag today, have a few beers, I'll have a rum, I'll raise it to you. In fact, I'm tempted to go and get one now. I mean, it is 6:30 in the morning. But it's worth remembering who St. George was and why he was chosen to be the patron saint of perhaps the greatest country the world has ever seen. It was England that created America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Yeah. You don't do that if you're just a run-of-the-mill country or race of people. Only special people could do things like that. Anyhow, I got to move on. I've been lax on the videos. So England, have a great St. George's Day. Remember who you are. You're not alone. We are with you. Get behind the Restore Britain movement. Get behind a great Englishman, Rupert Lowe. He must be special for the Welsh to follow him. Yeah. Have a great day, England. You're not alone. Happy St. George's Day. You've been listening to Paul Morris, The Green Arrow.